Hi guys, welcome back to INFJ. Today we are going to talk about INFJ overanalyzing. Before we get started, comment, like, and subscribe, and let's do this. So I'm so excited to do this video today. So when I was younger, when I had started my INFJ YouTube channel, I remember hearing that people would tell me that I did not need to overanalyze. Like, when I started my channel, people would say, oh, like, is it really necessary to overanalyze? Not everything has to be a full essay. I remember one of my friends said, like, I don't know if you should overanalyze everything when you have not had life experience. And I think at that point in my life, I didn't have life experience. But what was so important from what this friend said was that this friend was in therapy school. So it's one thing if you're out at a girls' night and you turn your girlfriend and you start talking about your ex, and your girlfriend's like, oh my God, girl, like, you're overanalyzing, right? That's one thing. For someone where you're in like a space where you're talking about your feelings, and this was not my therapist, but this person was like to be a therapist. And so this friend to say, yeah, it's like not the smartest thing to overanalyze before you've had your life experience. I thought that was so interesting, right? So when we think about the noise around personal development or psychology, self-help, it sort of matters. I don't know how it is for other like app industries, but like it's like credential and or following. These are kind of what influence our psychological beliefs. If everybody has a view on what forgiveness is, that impacts how we're going to talk about it in the self-help video. If one person has a view, but they're super credentialed, that impacts the self-help space as well. See, so like in self-help, because I think everybody has experience, so we all feel like we have self-help experience. But so it just kind of goes to show that this space is impacted by professionals and non-professionals, right? Imagine if in ballet, they gave non-ballet dancers this same input on the ballet community as ballet dancers. That's weird. Anyway, but this is me coming from someone, I don't have any credentials. I'm not MBTI credentialed. So it's just interesting. So continuing, people generally question your talent and skills. And I'm thinking when years ago, like at the start of my YouTube channel, like the early days, what is talent and skills? That's the thing about YouTube, is that my perception of YouTube was that it's not something you learn, it's not something you perfect, it's not something you should think about. YouTube is something you should do. Growing up, social media, like early teens, that's when social media in my life started to become prevalent. That's when social media became prevalent, I guess you could say. So it was normal, but I still got to be a kid before social media occurred. So prior to social media, you needed accolades to work or to give input on a conversation. Now with social media, you can work and have no talent or skills. Or you can create and have no talent or skills. I don't have credentials, I don't have talent and skills. My channel is not monetized, right? But that's what makes YouTube so beneficial, is that you just kind of do it. And that was my perception when I put my first YouTube video out. That was my perception when I started my INFJ channel. That is my perception now. It's not something, if you're thinking about it, maybe it's not the thing for you. That's my personal opinion. This is not professional advice. This is how I internalize it for myself. Because if you think about putting out a YouTube video, there's gonna be so much naysaying. And this was not when my channel became more popular, because I had my channel for a few years. So after a few years, it got somewhat, out there, right? In the very beginning, people were like, what is this? This is weird. We don't like this, right? So, and I didn't care. And that is really, that kind of, to me, is how you have to approach this. So if someone telling you you're overanalyzing deters you even that much, you have to put up with that a lot, right? Or put up with it. You just ignore it, essentially. One of the good things about MBTI that I think is good is that we disagree all the time. Disagreeing in MBTI is not a big deal. The chat rooms are full of debates. The types, these personality types don't like those personality types. It's just the landscape, which I think is so positive. I guess maybe for me, for an INFJ, I love debates. So, how does this relate to overanalyzing? Overanalyzing is when someone tells you you are overanalyzing. Okay, remember, your girlfriend at a girls' night says, oh girl, you're overanalyzing when you talk about your ex, right? That is like fine, or that's normal, right? That's like, I've probably said that to one of my friends before. But like when you post a YouTube video, you're fully fleshing something out, then you're overanalyzing. It's an opportunity for people, it can be an opportunity for people to boil down your ideas into something directionless, miscellaneous, or undefined. This is exacerbated because MBTI is a soft science. We don't tell an accountant you're overanalyzing finances because there are credentials to becoming an accountant, and it is tangible. It is also a needed, vetted industry that is embedded into every facet of society. Nevertheless, maybe for MBTI and self-development, we need to account for emotional finances. Now, the funny thing is, I don't think of INFJs as analytical. With INFJs, you really have to separate the introvert from INFJ. So if you think, what is INFJ right next to ENFJ? ENFJs are stereotyped to be Martin Luther King. Now, Martin Luther King was very educated. He had 1 million college degrees, but it was his passion and his dream that connected with people. Passion, dreams, wanting to change the world, that's like FJ territory. ESFJ, ISFJ, INFJ, ENFJ. The INFJ is right next to ENFJ. So, INFJs are not exactly analytical. INFJ intuition makes broad generalizations over time. So when I think of the word analytical, I think of Excel spreadsheets, I think of hard science and data, making observations. I think of people who write textbooks, people who get perfect scores on their SATs and ACTs. Now, INFJs can excel in academia as well, but INFJs are more creative. What I think is the crux of why INFJs are not analytical what separates us from super intellectuals is, I think introverted intuition is slightly random. I do not feel like my introverted intuition is completely on demand. Now, we do it enough that I can come out with weekly videos. On my old channel, I think I came out with bi-weekly videos for spells, months at a time, right? So it happens enough that we can do it. We could do it consistently for the 9 to 5 schedule. We could talk about intuition topics that frequently. But if you looked at that day, it would be sporadic. That's what I think. That's how I think of it. Because it is our first function. But introverted intuition needs to take in information. And I feel like when you take in information, you cannot measure when the conclusion or inference is drawn. So this, I think, is a key thing that sets INFJs apart from everybody. From from other INFJs, from other what we think of as analytical or intellectual or introverts. So I think this plays into something like fit into a role, because I feel like this randomness impacts people's ability to fit us into roles. Because it's hard to play a part when the piece of the conversation you want to contribute is going to randomly appear. And so if you think of an INTP, INTPs have dominant introverted thinking. They have the logic that can systematically have coherent conversations at a highly intellectual level. INTPs, it's like they have knowledge on every subject you could possibly bring up. Me as an INFJ, I feel like I have interests. And within those interests, like I love Yu-Gi-Oh! So I could talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! INTPs, whether they actually like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or have ever thought about Yu-Gi-Oh!, they know about Yu-Gi-Oh! They know about Pokemon. They know about biology. They know about engineering. And this is how this kind of manifests. They just know everything about everything. Not really, but sort of. So they can have these conversations. Now I have to clarify, I'm not talking about like basic conversations. If you can't have a basic conversation, if you cognitively cannot, that's more something like an impairment. What I'm talking about in INFJs is not that. What we're talking about is, have you ever had someone talk to you about coding, software, and engineering? Now, if you're an INFJ coder, software engineer, then you know what they're talking about. But I'm not a coder, software engineer, so I don't know what someone's talking about. So I can't really contribute to that conversation. People like to act like you should intellectually know how to contribute to that conversation. So when I've had like these successful friendships too, and so like my friend will talk to me for like an hour about coding or engineering or science. And so it takes me typically 45 minutes to make a generalization, and that's me really listening as if I was in their class in college. That's me really listening and trying to come up with a response. It takes me a while to reciprocate some sort of contribution to that topic because I just don't know how to code. I don't know how to analyze cells, so that's fun. Now, what is another way? Have you ever had someone talk to you about all the people they know? They are so cool because they have 1 million friends. I'm an INFJ, I don't have those 1 million friends. I have INFJs. I've known INFJs. INFJs can be popular. I've known popular INFJs. Those popular INFJs don't exactly, if you're an INFJ, you probably don't feel like you roll out of bed ready to match the force. And because I don't mean force like combative, I mean just the force of someone being like, yeah, I know everybody here. Like they are expecting you to reciprocate that force and for you to say, well, I know everybody here, right? That's how it feels to me when I'm in that situation. Like you have to essentially clap back. Now this is useful if you're around ESTJs. Then I would say that like when I realize I'm around an ESTJ, I'm like, okay, this person wants me to exude the strength, essentially. So yeah, I have all the friends and I go on all the right? Now around some people, you just have to do that to just do it, But like generally, it feels like I don't want to match that energy on a regular basis. In both scenarios, one possible adaptation or one possible thing to do is to pretend or to fake it till you make it or to just exude fitting inness. When I feel this pressure, I feel like my intuition does not have a conclusion about engineering. My intuition does not have a conclusion or differentiation or categorization or generalization about your 300 friends. I cannot conjure my introverted intuition to make an inference, generalization, or conclusion about these subjects. So yes, because I view intuition as sporadic, it's hard to match force with people at times. I think what introverted thinking, like what I see TI users do, is they're just able to kind of reciprocate this language of force by restating what they're hearing. So if I'm an INTP and someone says, "Oh yeah, I have 300 friends," I feel like the TP would say, "You're really connected. You're like are really good at networking." As an INFJ, I don't know if I feel like that person is connected to their 300 friends. Now this is snarky, but this is really how introverted intuition, extroverted sensing, looking for psychological truths, right? We don't spout it off like that so easily. But so to me, INFJ is a verb personality type. Yes, in MBTI and in life, we know INFJs are introverts, but so much of an INFJ is about self-expression. Remember earlier, I compared INFJs are the introverted sibling to something like Martin Luther King. Now, is every ENFJ Martin Luther King? No. Do we actually know that Martin Luther King is an ENFJ? I don't know. But what we're talking about here is INFJ is all about expression. Out in the real world, INFJs are drawn to spirituality, religion, and psychology. These are expression-heavy fields that often involve being present with the human experience. I don't know if INFJ is the textbook writing personality type. Introverted intuition takes time. So on the one hand, when we finally open our mouths, sometimes people think we are overanalyzing. On the other hand, when we can't match the knowledge of our accounting friend or the force of our popular friend, we feel incompetent. If someone reflexively tells you that your thoughts are overanalyzing or something, it's time to discern. It's time to trust your emotional intelligence of what your gut tells you about that person and what that person has told you about who they are. So remember, girlfriend's night, girl, you're overanalyzing, is a lot different from seriously overanalyzing again. Like, there's some emotional things going on too, right? It's hard to blanketly say, like, the word overanalyzing is bad, right? So you can naturally feel when you do and do not want to analyze. And your friends will help you. Maybe your friend's right. Maybe it's like, girl, we don't need to talk about them tonight. Maybe, if you really are seriously trying to talk to someone about something and they tell you you're overanalyzing, maybe it should be a conversation. Like, there should be some depth to unpacking, like, okay, like, you've talked about this enough, or right now you need to focus on action, but there should be some bridge. Like, we don't want to slam the door in the face of our own thoughts, is what I think. And even if, like, it's like, don't focus on them, focus on this new project. The passion from that experience can help you be enthusiastic about a new project, right? So there's a lot of layers here. So what is happening when people put this pressure on you? People put this pressure on you to have 300 friends, to match their force of having 300 friends, or to sycophantically confirm and be a yes person to them and say, oh my God, you're so popular because you have 300 friends, right? Or when they intellectually want you to just know everything about science because they care about science. So they're kind of saying, if you want a relationship with them, you have to be a part-time scientist. So what is happening here? It almost feels like people are vetting you. It almost feels like people are initiating you into being a role into their life. What does this mean? What does this mean, initiation culture? Well, we have to discern. there are different types of people. So people often initiate themselves. Someone can make you feel safe to share boundaries and beliefs, and some people don't. With my empath friends, a boundary just generally looks like the statement, I value respect. I don't have to boundary my empath friends so significantly as I do a more in-between friend, or a friend who I feel is more, or friend, is it a friend at that point? Or someone who I feel is more antagonistic. So yes, so with an empath friend, they respect who you are. An in-between friend or a middle friend, not a friend, and people don't have to be empathetic or narcissistic. Like with someone who is just moderate, they may grow to respect the boundaries you have that they don't love. Or you have to agree to disagree on certain subjects. Or with communication, the relationship can work. And you have to communicate with empaths too, and you have to set boundaries with everybody. But this idea of initiation, you have to take the person into account. And then with a narcissist, you have to actively, proactively, reactively, post-actively, pre-actively, you have to boundary the crap out of that narcissistic relationship, because there is no the narcissist kind of acts on their own. They don't factor in your emotional needs, right, the way the empath does. So if an empath friend wants to be closer to you, or if a healthy friend, empath or medium, wants to be closer to you, do you have to initiate them? What is initiation? I don't even know what that is. You would have discussions. You could have discussions about morals. You could have discussions about your behavioral views. You could have discussions on what is a friendship. If a narcissist wants to be closer to you, their actions may concern you, and you may need to observe that their actions and outlook have changed or improved in order for them to be closer to you. Or it could just be a sign if like someone's actions are wildly not what you want, then that might just be a sign you're not compatible, right? They may be operating in a way that is most healthy for them, but it may not fit with you, right? So there's layers. For the wrong person, anything you do is too much because you are not enough. For the right person, they can never get enough because they resonate with your purpose. So I hope this video made sense, connecting over analyzing to how we process information, to what our interests are, to what our values are, to who are the right people for us. Do we need to initiate empaths the same way we initiate a narcissist? Do we need to vet someone who we know is harmless the same way we would vet someone who is high antagonism? I think these are important things to think about and consider because I'm not really an initiation type person. I don't know what that is. I don't like that. Okay.